The ninja have a whole lot of very cool weapons, but it would be unfair to say that the villains don't have their fair share of very cool weapons as well. So I think that it was only right to rank every villain weapon, since I did the same for the ninja a few months ago. So I don't really know if they necessarily count as a weapon, but it is the Fang Blades. So they were a pretty good idea since they could bring back the Great Devourer, but they aren't really weapons, and outside of the ninja and serpentine hunting for them, they didn't really do all that much. So I think that last is a pretty fair position for the Fang Blades. In 10th we have the serpentine general staves. They do look pretty cool, I'll give them that, but other than that, they are pretty lame. And in 9th we have Aspheria's magic staff thingy. I guess it is cool because it can take elemental power similar to Chen's staff, but all Aspheria used that for was to warm herself up. She could have just put on a jumper instead, and the staff could also send people to different realms, which is pretty cool, but there are a lot cooler villain weapons. And in 8th, we have the Anaconda Blades, which might sound surprising, but I honestly just like how Master Chen hyped them up to be super strong and invincible. We didn't really get to see that in the show too much, but the concept of them is pretty cool. And in 7th, we have the Sword of Sanctuary, which technically isn't a villain weapon, but since Moro was the one who mainly used it, I thought I would include it anyway. So, we all know what it does. It tells you what your opponent's next move is going to be through its reflection, and that is just such a cool idea. In the show, it was also pretty cool and overpowered, but personally, I think that it is a little bit impractical because you have to look at the sword while you're in the middle of a fight, and then once you see what your opponent is going to do next, you have to then work out how you're going to defend against it. But hey, maybe there is a reason that I only ever got up to an orange belt in karate. In 6th place, we have the Gong of Shattering, and I also paired it alongside the Mallet of Shattering as well. So these are the newest of the villain weapons, and they are pretty cool. They power up the Wolf Mask Warriors, and it also allows Cinder to do Shatter Spin. And of course, when the blood moon rises, you can use it to open up a portal to Netherspace. But it might only be this high up on the list because of recency bias and the fact that I actually made my own Gong of Shattering as well. 5th place is the Crystallized Golden Weapons, and they were such a disappointment. There was so much potential that was there to be had with the Crystal Council taking possession of the weapons of Spinjitzu, but sadly, the only thing they ever did was bring back the Overlord. And how can you forget that LEGO had to ruin the Sword of Fire piece just so they were able to crystallize it in the sets? But, I mean, they are the golden weapons at the end of the day, so I had to at least place them in the middle of this ranking. So we have the Oni masks in 4th, they also had heaps of potential. The Mask of Deception should just be renamed to the Mask of Levitation because that's literally all it did. The Mask of Vengeance only turned Mr. E into a knockoff Lord Garmadon, and the Mask of Hatred was pretty cool, but I would have liked to have seen more of the invincibility that was said that it would grant its user. Kicking off the top 3, we have Nardacon's Sword of Souls. It was just so cool to see the ninja get picked off one by one into the sword, and I just found it pretty interesting how in the wrong hands they could just put the whole world inside of that sword. And in 2nd, we have some weapons that I would actually use, being the Time Blades. If you are dreading doing a test, use the fast forward Time Blade and you are good. It also gives you super speed in the Ninjago movie video game. The slow-mo blade is kind of useless because it is basically just a nerfed version of the pause time blade. And finally, we have the most overpowered, the reversal blade. Have you ever done something embarrassing? Well, use this and you can make it so it never happened. And going back to tests, you can look at your test paper, reverse time, and now you know what the questions will be. These are just very overpowered weapons, but my favorite weapon of them all is the Staff of Elements. Now, it would take some time and effort for this weapon to be good, since you have to take Elemental Master's powers to be able to use it, But as we saw in Season 4, it is pretty easy to get almost all of the Elemental Masters in one room. And yes, taking elemental powers from people does make you a bit of a villain, but this list is about villains after all. But if you wanted to see a ranking of the ninja's weapons instead, I've got you. See you later, be ninja.